Hello, hello, hello. Happy Fed Cut Wednesday. If they do cut, which they're supposed to, but I think it's a mistake. How's everyone doing this morning? Hold on one second. That's not right. That's not right. I know I forgot something. See? Boy, already. See, just as a Fed's cut's going to be a mistake, the green screen not being in the correct position was a mistake. So, sorry about that. Let's start over. Happy Fed Cut Wednesday. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Sterling. Thank you for putting in the earnings. Birkenstock was a beat, but guided lower. GIS, we got to look at GIS. GIS, if you're looking for a potential stock to keep an eye on for a potential longer term bottoming pattern that pays a halfway decent dividend still, especially if it's triggered a double top going into very key support. So that could be one you might want to keep an eye on because that's also a good one that if you were going to pick it up, besides keeping the dividend, you can always sell some calls against it. It doesn't move that fast. Jabble was a beat, guided up. The other two guided down. Good morning, Jake. Toro, a miss, and guided down. Well, that's a bunch of bull. Oh boy, Toro not doing so well. Good morning, Jacob. Is the Dow gonna break the losing streak today? It very well might. Very well might. What else do we have? We have the thanks for putting in the news. Good morning. What is this? I keep hearing about drones and government shutdowns. What am I missing? Well, there's no government shutdown. They passed the spending resolution, which is a bunch of absolute crap. Another 1,500 pages of government spending. Boy, it's going to be interesting to see if Doge can actually get some cuts through, because remember, they can only recommend stuff. Still takes Congress to get them through. And based off speakers, Johnson's no spine with this latest spending bill, we shall see. Good morning, John. They get a by the way, they gave themselves a raise too. Yay. Yay. What else? Good morning, McRangers. Oh, do people still watch X Games anymore? I guess. Roku locks exclusive U.S. streaming rights for X Games, huh? Oh boy. It's completely disconnected from fundamentals. It's completely but that doesn't matter for Tesla. Grand Rising, Christoph. Good morning, Anissa. What else? Good morning, Mark. We'll get to everything else in a second. Yep. Well, the 30-year mortgage rate rises 8 bips to 6.75%, and it might just keep going higher. Hello, Charles. All right. So, what? They're going to weigh a ban on popular TP-Link home routers over possible national security risks? Oh, boy. Okay. So, we already saw the mortgage stuff. It's today, if you're a crude trader, you got to keep in mind, hold on, I'm just moving some screens around. Keep in mind you have the EIA numbers coming out, and crude's actually setting up. A lot of commodities are starting to sort of heat up again. So, but the real big thing is at the rate cut decision at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then the Fed meeting at 2:30. That's going to be the real one, and the guidance, because the market's pricing in again. Market's pricing in 95% of a cut. I don't think Powell has any balls whatsoever to disappoint the market. So I think it will be a cut. I'd like to see it not be a cut. And then it'll all be about the guidance, whether they say, hey, we're going to slow roll it and going into next year. So that's going to be interesting. So far, you have NVIDIA leading the way higher for the mega caps. Tesla pulling back a bit, but NVIDIA taking over the charge as it pulled back enough, even though we have that head and shoulders going on. So, not much going on. Let's just go straight to the groups, because you have technology industrials and energy leading higher, but not overperformance in that, and consumer cyclical pulling back. We already looked at Fed Watch Fear and Greed at the middle of neutral, 51 going into the Fed meeting. And we're at 38.55 Schiller PE. Sterling, nice enough, putting in the earnings. Remember, after close, you got Micron, Lennar are the two big ones I'll be looking at. Lennar from the home building perspective, and then Micron from the chip perspective. Tomorrow morning, not much, but tomorrow afternoon, Nike and FedEx. I'm real interested to see Nike's guidance and FedEx's guidance too. All right. So, yeah, it does feel like a silent bid in crude. Yep. So here, I'm doing something different. We're going to update because people were asking, well, what did you mean yesterday when you do the projections, especially after rolls just on the contract? So I have the long term is now back adjusted. Now, we're just looking at the chart. Why do we need a back adjusted for the long term? Because to do longer term harmonics and longer term retracements and everything else, you're going to run out of data just on the using the March contract. And you see how spotty it gets. So really, the farthest I can go back is to August using the contract. Now, it's virtually the same patterns. You just have to adjust your levels. Now, the closer we get, or the more we get into, start getting into January, these things, the short-term levels will roughly line up. And you have to use the back adjusting chart for the longer-term levels. But on just the March contract, I'm really watching this 61.11 to 61.14. If we start breaking below there and then follow through with a close below the rotation zone, it could be a pretty quick trip to down to this 60.17 to 60.50 area. To the upside, I'm anchoring the lows from November 19th on the March contract up to the Friday the 6th. We got 62.11 would be the first level on a breakout higher, and then 62.45 or 62.43 would be the two major levels there. So, and you see here, it's roughly the same pattern, and we're right around still 61 on the back adjusted, 61.13. This is the back adjusted, not a back adjusted. Remember, that's where you got the gap from. There's the back adjusted. And then before it was what on the March contract, we'd be looking at about 6,017, where the 65 is with the 50. And on the continuous, we're looking about 6,024. Now, these will start getting tighter and tighter as we get more and more March data coming in. The levels will tighten up. But for the time being, if you're just executing solely on the March contract for the short term, this is the way I do it using those levels. So, overall, though, really pay attention to see if we close below the rotation zone. And also, you see here, very key support area. Very key support area right here. Just below that 61.14 area. So, that's going to be crucial, especially with Fed guidance this afternoon. On the NASDAQ, just look at the March for the NASDAQ. So far, the next key area is 22,534. And other than that, we at least have a short-term pausing area now for the March. So above that, then I'd use 22,676 and 22,9. Those would be the next levels I'd use. Now, we're a long way from major support. So your minor support is at this little prior breakout zone from this little top pattern, the 11th and 12th of December, and then the rising rotation zone, 22,050, 22,060. The Dow, which I'm not going to do individual contacts on the Dow or the Russell, but who said those are going to break the losing streak? Because we're at the longest losing streak outside of like 1978. Who said that? I'm sorry, I forgot who said that. But it is a very good point about the losing streak. I'm just scrolling back through the comments. I can't find it right now. Look at the losing streak in the Dow. Also, the losing streak in the Dow is partially due to United Health Group. Look at this, getting absolutely shellacked. So, but we'll have to see if today closes green or not. Today or not. It is technically below 62.5 on the back adjusted contract. So, sorry, wrong levels. Hold on. It is still below 62.5 on the back adjusted contract, so I'm still going to be watching this. Even on any bounce plays, we have the daily rotation zone now against it. So I'm still watching to get back down to 43,750 area at least. And then if we close below 43,550, the move could continue lower. But the Dow on any bullish plays, even if we get some bounce today, that's not the one I'm looking for. Russell, still the potential double top in play, still holding the 62.5. So still watching for 23.55 for the closing basis. On any bounce plays, also we'll be watching for rollover plays in the Russell. The VIX, just slightly elevated going into a Fed meeting, but nothing to write about. The DAX, remember, we have little mini triggered double top. So far tried a little bounce, but right now it hasn't technically hit the key stop level, but this is one I'd be ratcheting down the stop a little earlier on, just from my experience. So the furthest away at this point I'd use is 20,414 on the closing basis, but it still can easily play out and hit the other side of this rotation zone. Let's just take a look at the yields. We had a little pullback after the morning rally yesterday, closing down below Fridays and Mondays, but now back up there. You have very key yield resistance up here, but it's going to be interesting to watch this after the Fed meeting, especially with overbought and daily cycles at the top. This could potentially pull back in the rotation zone before another push higher. And right now, there's no new setup for longs. Good morning, dark screen. The dollar index continues to move sideways after triggering the little mini double bottom pattern. Not yet at first target, but given the Fed meeting, I would raise the stop. It just missed the first target. So the furthest away I'd use this is at 105.75 area on a closing basis. That's the furthest away any stop would be. Again, not trading recommendation, just telling you what I'm looking at. Crude. This is very interesting. Came up against resistance, couple day pullback to the starting to separate rotation zone. Little bounce off of that. I want to see how crude behaves after the EIA numbers, because it looks like it's trying to put in a potential higher base. If we break yesterday's low, though, I'm watching for a return back down here. But crude looks like it has, what was it? Was that you, Christoph, that said it looks like it has a little silent underlying bid? It looks like it's gaining some strength here. But there's not a fantastic setup yet with daily cycle still going down. Gold, not much to talk about here. If we close below 26.39, then I'll continue to watch for the bigger pullback. Really, there's not much to talk about. Copper against very key support with daily cycles at the bottom. So we'll be watching to see if this holds. Again, this is a very strong support base in this area. Speaking of that, I want to jump to GIS real quick before I forget. General Mills. So as Sterling so nicely put in, who puts in the earnings and the news every day for us, thank you. They did do a beat. And it's a gap down, so this did not trigger, but it's a gap down. But I'm really looking at this 62 to 62.50. Why am I interested in this potentially longer term? If you look above my head, the PDE's okay, 1563, which is fine. and it's got a nice dividend yield of 3.64, and this continues to drop. That yield climbs up a bit. But what is really interesting to me, so it's an okay dividend yield. It's not a fast moving stock, but we are potentially getting into a very key area of support. So I'm going to be watching for stronger bottoming patterns down here, maybe a weekly percent beat buy. You give weekly cycles at the top, so I'm not saying I would not be just jumping into this blindly. But longer term, I'm keeping an eye on this. If you're looking for an okay dividend payer that you can always sell some covered calls against using harmonics, okay, and it starts rallying a bit, you can ratchet up your calls. We had here, that does make potential topping patterns that when it triggers, that's where, you can ride it down. But we could be forming a base here. That's just interesting to me. Sorry to get sidetracked. Sometimes I like to find things that maybe if you're looking for a stock for your portfolio and it does trigger maybe a weekly percent beat buy, it might be interesting to put a little bit in there. Yen, we still have the magnet price for yen weakness going higher to 155.72 area. Going to be watching for that rotation back up. Euro, not much to talk about. Again, the currencies will probably stay flat until the Fed meeting. The spiders, the key area I'm watching for is to break below, if this does break down below Tuesday the 10th low, and then with a follow through below 601 on a closing basis. Other than that, nothing's changed since yesterday. I think it's going to look like if we do the little reverse harmonics from that 10th low, you're going to have the cluster about 610.50 to 611 on any breakout higher. But for today, I'd still be attention on any rally. Pay attention to the close from Monday, 606.79. The Qs, we're finally got a pausing bar. So we can at least do some of the shorter term harmonics higher. Okay, so taking out Monday's highs, you'd have 541.65, 544.15. Until that, I'd be paying attention to Monday's closing price, 538.17. Very key support coming in at 530. Is there a daily double top on gold? No, this is not. Nope. Nope, that's not a double top. I'd just be paying attention to this 2639 area on a closing basis. That will tip the probabilities lower. Potential little 4-hour double bottom takes us to daily rotation zone. Cycles not much helps. Downtrending moving averages. Let's take a look. Yeah, that is a little against the rotation zone. Here's what Patrick's talking about. Let me see if I chose the correct. Yep, that's the peak right there. Yeah, I'd be using this. These are the kind of things that I watch for. We get this kind of thing triggered. I'd be watching for rollover plays, especially in the daily rotation zone. You know what? Especially around the final target. It is against some little key support. But if this bounces and rolls over again, it's also at the 62.5. We could easily see it coming into this long-term support area. This would be a little nimble day trade thing only, but I'd be more watching for the rollover play after this. This could also trigger possibly if Micron does something strong. Doesn't have to trigger today. ZB. I should probably put those up. Nice setup in ZB as nicely formed 4-hour potential double bottom right major area support. Yeah, there's the 87.5. Here's your double bottom. So, yep, into the daily rotation zone. So, with cycles at the bottom, that could be interesting. And oversold with a little potential minor divergence, that could be a little bounce play after the Fed meeting. Potentially, it has not triggered. Thank you, Sterling. All right. You have Tesla still. Not much besides going vertical and every dip getting bought. Not much to talk about besides that 493 to 500 magnet price. So NVIDIA, little bounce here. I'm watching this key descending trend line and the rotation zone. Those are the two areas I'm watching on any bounce play. We are getting it into oversold territory with cycles at the bottom. But then I'll be watching for rollover plays in this too. And again, that magnet price of the 200 simple. What else do we have going on? By the way, if you're trying to YOLO the AVGO, YOLO the AVGO calls. Oh, boy. We did get a pausing bar yesterday. I'm not advocating that at all because this, but that's the market we're in. It's a gambler's mentality market. You do with a pausing bar yesterday, the next two targets higher if this thing resumes its breakout. Don't know if it's going to, but would be 263.67 and 275.46. So if you're YOLOing those calls, there you go. Again, not a trading recommendation at all. This thing's gone very vertical, very fast. I'm watching for a pullback play. But let's see if we're now going to rotate out of Broadcom back into NVIDIA in the next couple days. With that, I think that's about it. Let's just peek at the S&P. Little weakening going into the open, but not much trading. Ooh, wow. I'm going to be watching this then. I know 61.14 to about 61.16 going into the open. That's some pretty significant pre-market weakness. So looks like we're going to have a negative tick opening too. So maybe that Dow is not going to break the losing streak. Look at this. Look at this. Is it going to lose the little green bar? All right. MU's double bottom still in play going into the earnings. It is still in play. Nothing's changed because it confirmed back here. Once it's confirmed, okay, and then it triggered here. So once the pattern's confirmed, it's either then going to get invalidated before it triggers or it's going to trigger, which it did here. Then these would just be targets if you're looking to play something on a stronger earnings, then those would be the upside key targets I'd use to structure something. All right. That's about it. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful trading day. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Again, Fed meeting, that's what's going to be the whole thing. It's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to cut unless they shock the market. So I'd still pay attention at 2 Eastern. But the big thing is the press conference. That's where we're going to get the real action. Okay, also it's important to see if it was a unanimous decision on the cut or if there's dissenters. That's going to tell you something going forward also. So those are the things I'm going to be on the lookout for. With that, I shall talk to everyone later. Bye for now.